Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to the Country Club of York, to Rotary. It's great to see all of you. I hope you had a very restful and enjoyable holiday season. We are a people of action, committed to serving to change lives in our community and around the world. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. President-elect nominee Erin Jacobs will lead us in our opening song, God Bless America, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Eric Chase will offer the invocation via Zoom, and Treasurer Doug Berman will introduce our visitors.
So real quick, this is really cute. In all my years of doing opening song, I never had a special request, but Tom and Jill Mccracken's granddaughter, Kylie, her favorite song is God Bless America, and she's 4 years old. It's true. And she was supposed to be here today, but she was not able to be here today, but please let her know we're doing this for her. So Rotarians, please join me. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you please join me in prayer and for the way that you are most accustomed to prayer? Let us pray silently together, each one of us according to our own individual beliefs. Let us offer thanks for this food, the hands that prepared it and have served us. Let us offer blessings for one another. And let us be a source of hope for those who are in need. Let us be comfort for those who are lonely. We ask that you bless our speaker today, Larry Richardson, the CEO of the YMCA of the Roses, which was established in December 2021 through the merger between the YMCA of York and York County and the Lancaster family YMCAs. Two of the oldest YMCAs in the country, both found in the mid-1800s, to help young men, but today serve all families, including young children. We especially give gratitude for our opportunity to serve through Rotary in our community. And we ask that the feelings of love and kindness and that your gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions today. Amen.
As I introduce today's guests, I'd ask that they please stand and remain standing until greeted by President Jackie. Ryan Thomas, guest of the club. Joe Brillhart, guest of past President Gordon Fryrick. Jill Mccracken, guest of Tom Mccracken. Tammy Snyder, guest of Scott Monteith. James Ballin, guest of Diane Marino. Michael Lowe, guest of Dennis Bachman. Matt Leininger, guest of Tom Donnelly. And finally, John Langle, guest of Austin Schenk.
Thank you, visitors. Thank you for being with us today. We hope that you find this program enlightening and enjoyable, and that you'll plan to greet us and join us again often at our club. Rotarians, please help me welcome our visitors. Due to the increase of COVID cases because of the Omicron variant, And in following the protocols of the Country Club of York, we're encouraging members to wear masks unless seated and eating. Rotary International strongly supports being vaccinated, and we also encourage our members to consider this effective line of defense against the pandemic. I'd like to draw your attention to the back corner of the room. You will see a table overflowing with lots of artifacts and important Rotary gifts, Rotary good stuff over the years. As you know, we're planning to move in February to our new location, which does not allow for very much storage. And so we really need to say goodbye to some of these beloved things. And so I'm pointing your attention to past President Bob Davis in the middle of the room. He's going to be challenging every single person in this room to leave with something in your hands. He doesn't care if you plan to take it home and dispose of it. He just wants to make sure you leave with something in your hands. But that's right. Do not dispose of Gordon's 100th anniversary books. Those are precious. And past President Brian Tate has a very good suggestion. Perhaps we could offer these to the York County Library System to put in every one of the libraries if we haven't already done that. And maybe Renee knows the answer to that. But yes, please, there's some really cool gaiters. I picked up a few of those back there. Lots and lots of stuff, including champagne flutes from the 100th anniversary celebration. So take those along with you, a little memorabilia of that great experience that we had. So please do not leave before visiting the back table, because after today, everything that's back there will be discarded. We have lots and lots of committee meetings coming up. The membership committee meets today following the meeting in the terrace room. The IDEA committee meets on January 10th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. The investment committee meets on January 11th at 10 a.m. via MS Teams. The Communications Committee meets on January 11th at 3 p.m. via Zoom, and the Preserve Planet Earth Committee meets on January 12th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. Wednesday, January 26th, our meeting will be held off-site at Keystone Kids Space on 10 East Hamilton Avenue. Reservations are required to attend by all members and guests. So please contact the Rotary office to register no later than Monday, January 17th. A reminder that our Charitable Endowment Fund Board of Directors voted to provide a disaster relief grant to the Horn Farm Center for Agricultural Education to help them recover from the October fire that destroyed much of the historic farmhouse that housed their operations. The board has granted a challenge match. So every dollar donated by Rotarians through mid-January will be matched up to $5,000. So if you're interested in donating, please send a check to the office, or you can also donate online through the website. It is with very deep regret that I share with you the news that our beloved Renee Oberdick will be leaving our employ on February the 4th. She has been an exemplary employee, as many of you can attest to, and has very large shoes to fill. She keeps the wheels on the bus for this vehicle we call Rotary, and she's been absolutely instrumental to Diane Marino and her committee in student scholarship education funds. We will miss her. We will miss her greatly, and I hope that you will join me in the coming weeks to thank her for her years of service to the Rotary Club of York and wish her well in her future endeavors. At this time, let's start by giving her a round of applause to thank her. And now for our member moment. Tom Mccracken joined Rotary on January 19th, 2011. He was proposed by the former Jerry Barnett, who was his partner at Legg Mason and longtime member of this club. Tom was motivated to join because of Rotary's commitment to service, something he has instilled in his children: give back to the community and lead by example. Tom is a York Suburban and York College graduate. He recalls fond memories of David Polk, who was a sociology professor at York College, and he still has the textbook from that class. Tom remembers David being very welcoming and inclusive when he became a member of the club. Tom has connections with several Rotarians who have enhanced his experience. Tom and his wife Jill have been married for 44 years. They have 3 children and 9 grandchildren. Tom loves travel, and in addition to Hawaii and Ireland, he and Jill hope to go on a cruise to Alaska very soon. Tom isn't one to follow directions, and the running family joke is if they ended up somewhere other than where they were meant to be, Dad decided to take the scenic route. This was certainly the case when they were in Maui, and he decided he didn't agree with the GPS directions, so he disregarded the promptings and headed the way he thought was faster, only to find the road narrowing to a windy single lane along steep cliffs with 1,000-foot drops to the ocean. Active in the community, his involvement includes volunteering for Junior Achievement for over 20 years, where he currently teaches a kindergarten class. A Dallastown School Board member for 8 years, where he chaired the construction committee for the renovation of the middle and high schools, and has served in several leadership roles at his church. Tom believes strongly in the impact of Rotary and what it has done for the world, and particularly in the eradication of polio. This is very personal to him, as his mother will be 96 years old next month and is a polio survivor. Tom is a past chair of the Rotary Foundation Committee and feels that the foundation is truly what Rotary is all about. He's a member of every Rotarian every year, is a Paul Harris Society member, and major donor level 1. He presented a Paul Harris Fellow to his oldest son in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and was planning to present another one today to his daughter, Erin Farrow, who's the executive director of the Southern York County YMCA. But unfortunately, she couldn't be with us due to illness, so we'll be able to present that hopefully another time. Tom and Jill love watching their adult children grow as parents, getting involved with their kids' activities and instilling in them the same values of community service that they were taught. Tom, thank you for your commitment to the Rotary Foundation and for sharing your personal connection to the eradication of polio around the world. We are recognizing 5 area nonprofits for their exemplary work in the community as a result of the proceeds from our Love for Community Fall event. And today I'm very pleased to present a $10,000 check to volunteer and board member for Sparrow Place, Ryan Thomas. Sparrow Place is a restorative home and care center for women survivors of human trafficking. Please welcome Ryan Thomas.
Hello, everyone. I'm not a public speaker, but as she said, I've been on the board for 3 years. Sparrow Place was founded just 4 years ago with the vision of opening a home to be able to create a new life, a new opportunity for women who've been trafficked. It's not a exciting topic that people like to get into because it's unpleasant, but it is a reality, and it's a reality that's grown a little bit more with the conditions of the pandemic. So if you didn't know, this month is actually Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and January 11th is Human Trafficking Awareness Day. And I'd encourage you all to wear blue that day, and don't be afraid to become more aware if you are not. And definitely, obviously, you know about Sparrow Place. So we really appreciate the opportunity that this gives us. We spent the first 3 years really building awareness, doing awareness at different places around York, including schools, high schools. And a lot of fighting this issue is through awareness. And but this year, we actually acquired our first house, and that was the ultimate vision of Sparrow Place. And we have our first survivor in the house as of November. And so that is going really well. And we're very excited that we're finally getting into what the vision of Sparrow Place was all about. And of course, your support is, I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you.
And now Bill Hartman, chair of the Rotary Foundation Committee, With the assistance of past District Governor Dick Brown, we'll present some Paul Harris Fellows.
Thank you, President Jackie, and good afternoon, Rotarians. I have some exciting news to report to you today. The year-end double points bonus program we put in place for contributions to the foundation has been a resounding success. We generated a total between October 1st and December 31 of $16,170 over and above what would have been our normal quarterly contributions to the foundation. That is huge. So please congratulate yourselves for a great performance. You know, Tom, you know, you're right about the foundation being what Rotary is all about. And obviously our club understands that. And the contributions you've made are going to do a lot of good here in York, here in central Pennsylvania, and throughout the world. So it's wonderful to see the embracing of the foundation by our club. Well, today we do have a couple of Paul Harris Fellow recognitions to make, and it's always fun to recognize a new Paul Harris Fellow. And we do have an outstanding true Rotarian, an OTR, who today will receive his first Paul Harris Fellow Award. So please congratulate me in welcoming George Hummel to come up and get his PHF. George, you've been a consistent contributor, and we're glad you've achieved this level. Congratulations, George. Next, and I'm pretty certain all of you would agree with me on this, and I know from his past comments that past President Mike Summers would agree with this. Next, we're going to recognize a lovely couple. You might be able to guess who the power couple is from Rotary. We're going to recognize today, but I'd like to ask President Jackie and past President Mike Summers to come up. These are outstanding true Rotarians whose contributions have been innumerable, and we really appreciate everything they've done to help our club, and they've been very good to the foundation. Mike is receiving his third Sapphire and Jackie her second Sapphire. So let's recognize these outstanding true Rotarians.
There's one more who I've got to know. I got to know you probably a long time ago when you were first a banker in York. We never crossed paths much because he loaned money to entrepreneurs to create wealth. I spent my whole banking career trying to help them conserve it and invest it and manage it to pass on. But he is my hero because he wears shoes that have white soles on them. So, and you got them on today. I'm glad you did. Anyhow, seriously, I've seen Bill in any number of leadership positions over the years. Every one of them he tackles with gusto, and you always know where Bill stands, and it's no different in Rotary. He is really moving forward in Rotary and providing great leadership at the foundation level. And Bill is now receiving his Paul Harris +6. So Bill, congratulations.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
And my thanks to Bill. Great job leading this committee. It's been a wonderful year of a lot of people taking advantage of those opportunities and becoming Paul Harris Fellows. And thank you too, Tom, because I remember how passionate you've been and remain on behalf of the foundation as well. So thank you both so much for all that you do. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce past President John Kleindens to introduce our program.
Very happy to introduce our speaker today, who should be no stranger to any of us. Larry Richardson is the current president and CEO of the YMCA of the Roses, which may just rolls off my tongue now, which is 166 years old in 2021. Larry has served in New York since 1994. He's also the president of the Y Community Development Corporation, the YMCA's community development arm. Prior to his YMCA career, Larry was in education and coached college football for 8 years and was a head high school football coach for 4 years. Larry has an MS in education from Mansfield University and a BA in psychology from Lafayette College. He's been married to his wife, Lisa, for 39 years and has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Larry is very involved in the community, currently serves on the boards of Better York, Servants Incorporated as the board chair, the Pennsylvania State Alliance of YMCAs, and chairs the Public Policy Committee. He's also a past board member of York Metro, Downtown Inc., past president of the West York School District Foundation, and a past elder at Grace Fellowship Church. Larry has also served as a volunteer mentor and presenter in Leadership York's mentorship program. We both agree we're both amateur historians, so this leads right into our desire. As in the 15th century in England, when a prince of the House of Lancaster, Henry Tudor, wed a princess of the House of York, Elizabeth of York, ending the War of the Roses and uniting the crown, so have the YMCAs in Lancaster and York united to improve both the quality and quantity of Y programs to the entire region, increase operational and financial efficiencies, enrich opportunities, and achieve greater financial stability while serving 30,000 members and program participants with over 500 employees and an annual operating budget of $25 million. This is a historical event. Fellow Rotarians, please help me welcome fellow Rotarian Larry Richardson.
Thank you, John. That probably takes about half my presentation, talking about the roses. It's been amazing how many people, even locally, ask, why YMCA the Roses? And I said, really? Why the Roses? And, and it's amazing that a lot of people don't recognize why we've had the good fortune of being in York and Lancaster, have these 2 cities. The interesting part about the Lancaster, and I know there's probably some amateur historians, even better historians than John or I out there, but I'm pretty sure the Lancaster was named by John Wright, who was born in Lancaster, England, from Lancaster, England, immigrated to Philadelphia, and then he named the city of Lancaster when he moved there. And why the John Wright restaurant is in York, I'm not really sure. I don't have that part of the story. It has something probably to do with the ferry, but I'm not positive about that. So thank you for that introduction. I do want to let Dick and I got white sole shoes on too. So I'm ready to go in case I have to move quickly up here. So we'll get to it. So appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It really is a historical time. So I'm the one who's supposed to operate this, right? I was looking at you to do something. I'm supposed to do something. So, why merge? There's a bunch of different thoughts on that process and whether we should or shouldn't, whether any organizations, businesses, nonprofits fall in that same category. The interesting thing here is, though, is you have literally 2 of the oldest YMCAs in the country. I always brag in York and our staff that we were 165 years old, founded in 1855. And when we started talking to Lancaster about this merger, we were disappointed in that, of course, it's Lancaster. They were founded in 1854, the year before us. So 165 years. And really, when you talk about this idea of merger and why, it's really about long-term and really about resilience. And it's around infinite leadership. And that I'm part of the journey. Many of you are board members or been part of the YMCA. I'm part of this journey. I've been here since 1994, Lord willing, a few more years. And whenever it is I leave, and anybody else that's coming on in a YMCA, there's no winners or losers, right? There's no winning. The game keeps playing along. And that's the issue here with the YMCAs in the history they've been in. I'm pretty sure that the Lancaster and New York YMCAs are the oldest nonprofit organizations in their communities, other than maybe churches, from what I understand. I don't have any scientific data on that. I'm just making that claim. So why merge? Generally, as you said, to improve Y programs, but really what led to the merger was the Lancaster YMCA was having trouble. And I think, I've said this publicly in the Lancaster community, they were struggling, really in summary, why their capital debt was equal to their annual operating income. And so they were over leveraged. They tried a number of ways. They were really healthy in their membership. In fact, their membership ratio by any metric was far and above what New York's YMCA membership ratio is to total ratio to total revenue. But it still wasn't enough to account for their capital debt. And so about 3 years ago, they approached Y, we're not really sure, but they approached the neighboring YMCA in the Brandywine Valley, generally probably because they were a very large Y and had a lot of income, and thinking that maybe they could absorb the capital debt that Lancaster had. And so the Brandywine YMCA ended up managing the Lancaster YMCA up until July of last year, July of 2020. And they were under a management agreement. And then when COVID came in March of 2020 and everybody shut down, Brandywine was still managing them. And the Brandywine board felt that in the midst of the COVID challenge, they had enough on their plate. They really couldn't also take on Lancaster. Well, many in the room know me for a long time. I've been here. That's the perfect time for me to suggest we jump in, right? Nobody else wants to do it. And they approached us in July of 2020. They weren't open. They had 3 employees, and they actually had a retainer at the legal counsel in Lancaster to file for bankruptcy. And so they came and approached us about, would you be interested in providing management services? And then maybe a further conversation down the road about a potential merger. Knowing this is their background, I said, of course, that sounds like a great idea. And fortunately, we had wonderful board members that have always supported some of my crazy ideas. And we did our study, and we'll talk about how that went through. But when we got there, we started merging. We started the process in September 1st of 2020 under a management agreement. So we went over, I provided CEO services. Our HR director provided human resource services. The day we walked in, they had 3 employees. And they're a $7 million plus, they're probably close to $10 million pre-COVID nonprofit. So they had 3 employees. They had a CFO who solely was there to wind them down into the bankruptcy process, facility director that I never saw. And then they had 1 other employee that was around, and that was it. So we had a lot. It was going to be a really, really heavy lift. And the key thing is they were still closed September 1st. So that was the other thing. We had opened in June from COVID. So closer March, we had opened in June. They still weren't open. So that even caused further financial complications and challenges for them. But we got open September 14th. But as we started to think about the merger components, it was looking about how do we improve and leverage the strengths and weaknesses across a broader geographical footprint to really build in resiliency, build trust, cooperation, and innovation. So we looked at efficiencies, and we're starting to see those now. We've been merged officially. I'll talk about that in a moment for, say, almost 30 days, a little bit longer than 30 days. But one of the interesting things was because we provided the management services starting in that September, we got to January of 21, and the boards decided that let's explore the merger process and then start doing some due diligence. So there was an official intent to merger, which is an official document. I hadn't done this in 30 years, so I didn't know that there was an official document for that, but there was. And we went through a due diligence process from January of 21 until we got to May of 21. And in the process of that, we found out a lot about one another, plus we've been there managing them. So the merger component became a lot easier for our board to kind of get behind and for our staff to get behind, because there was a lot of education that was going on. We were there on the ground with them. We hope to increase fundraising impact and public relations. I think that we've seen that. Since I've been here since 1994, there've been several times that we've had media opportunities or we've had things that were going on that are really cool. And we put out media releases and nobody comes. But this time for this merger was, it's a big deal to us for sure, but we didn't really understand what the interest would be in the public. And there's been a lot of interest. So we had about 5 or 6 different media events. So we do believe that that's going to be certainly important moving forward. And then achieve greater financial stability. That's critical right now. And we actually have changed that probably stability word to resilience. In the midst of COVID, there have been many YMCAs in the country that have closed. There have been many other nonprofit organizations and businesses, as we all know. It's been a real challenge. So how do you build resilience? And I often tell our staff, we've been around for 165 years. All right. We survived the Civil War. We survived the last pandemic in 1918, 2 world wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, recessions, racial strife in our country, whatever it's been, we've been able to survive in the YMCA. And it's been because I really believe because of this idea of infinite leadership. Not just people who have sat in my chair before, but many other people really have sat generally as community leaders in our community on our boards of directors. And then we hope to see enriched opportunities moving forward. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So I went through some of the pieces already here. The boards pursued this plan of merger. And then when you're done with that, so your boards had voted, the membership groups, so we're a membership-based organization. Our membership in York, membership in Lancaster, all had to approve it, including the boards. And then we filed that with the Attorney General for their approval. And then once they've approved it, it had to be filed with the Orphans Court in Lancaster, because what happened in the merger actually is Lancaster ceased to exist on the day of the merger. York's employee identification number, everything in York articles of corporation bylaws, everything kept going. Everything in Lancaster pretty much is shut down other than their operations there. So they as an organization ceased to exist. And so that had to be approved by the Lancaster Court of Orphans. And then once that's been approved, then it's filed with the State Department of Corporations. And that happened at 11:59 p.m. on November 30th. And why November 30th at 11:59 p.m.? Because for some odd reason, the Lancaster YMCA's fiscal year was November 30th. I have no idea why. No one could tell us why. We're asking Doug to tell us why. He doesn't know why. Doug doesn't have the answer, so I don't know what it is. So what happened in the governance standpoint? So how does this work? Not real exciting, but the York Association's bylaws, the articles of incorporation, employee identification number all continue. We're still actually the YMCA of York and York County. We filed for the name change in December. That's filed at the state level, but we're told by legal counsel we can't really use that other than publicly. We can talk about it, but in any official documents, bank statements, bank accounts, until we get the confirmation back from the state, which should come hopefully here very, very soon. The initial board, we've always had 24 members on our board of directors. Some are here today, some former board members are here today. Is 20, still continues to be 24, but we rotated 8 people in from Lancaster. So going forward, 30 years from now, there always has to be 8 people from at least a minimum of 8 from either Lancaster or York. So there'll never be less. And that's based on residency. So you could have a business in Lancaster or a business in York, but where your home is how we designate that piece. So there's always going to be 8. So there's representation. I took care of that last bullet point. So financial models, so some of this is pre-COVID, some of this is estimated, some of it is built into, we have a financial model that keeps changing, right? Every other week, we change the financial model based on what's happening with COVID and bounce back and what the government's doing and what people's preferences are and how safe they feel. But our projected membership is around 30,000. We'll probably serve around 90,000 people. Last year, York alone served 60,000 people in his programs and services. And that means if you come to the Graham Aquatic Center to watch your grandchild swim or something like that. So that's foot traffic across thresholds, different people. Projected budgets could be anywhere from 15 to 25 million. Again, depending upon pre or post COVID, both YMCAs together were exceeded over close to 25 million prior to COVID. And that's what our goal would be back in 2023. Close to probably $3 million. So we're at least, we're a 20% contribution model in terms of our total revenue. So 40% of our revenue will come from membership, 40% will come from program, swim team, swim lessons, childcare, day camp, and then 20%, generally we're close to 22% will come from community contributions. That's to provide indirect and direct support. So you can do the numbers and the math, but raising charitable support is generally between 2.5 to 3 million in this new model. And really what we're trying to do in the financial model is have a sustainable financial model that funds the mission. And again, that's an infinite mission. And it's really sustainable. Again, it's probably a word we've been using more and more, a resilient model, not sustainable. We have a director of operations in York and in Lancaster report directly to me. So we don't have one COO. Think of it as two CEOs, one in Lancaster, one in York. Our C-suite is myself, the CFO. We had two CFOs, one in Lancaster and one in York, both tremendous. Was very fortunate that the one in York retired. So I didn't have to make any decisions there. And we just brought in, and many of you know the CFO now is Cindy Almond, who actually worked for Susquehanna Fallscraft for 18 years, I believe. She's from Lancaster. She was at the Lancaster Y and now is our CFO. And she served here in the United Way boards and all other things. And so it's been fantastic. So she knows the York community. Our development and marketing facilities and human resources are all in that C-suite across both counties now. We're closer probably to 500 employees now. So it's a pretty big group. The bad part about that is, of course, we're way over the 100. Is starting on Monday. We're going to have everybody has to be vaccinated or wear a mask and be tested every week, depending upon what the Supreme Court does on Friday. That's a whole nother presentation. So, and then of course, there are things, the mission imperatives across the association, they're very different. Lancaster and York are very different. Lancaster does not have a homeless men's shelter, doesn't have a community development corporation that does housing. It doesn't have the extent of childcare that we have, doesn't have a Graham Aquatic Center, doesn't have the multiple branches that we have. Even their city branch YMCA in Lancaster is way different than the YMCA in downtown York. Totally different neighborhoods. The city YMCA in Lancaster, right down the street from F&M, is right on the border, right in actually the St. James development. And so it's in a very I almost call it an upscale, vibrant economic place. And I'm not saying the York downtown Y at 90 North Newbury Street is not upscale and vibrant economically, but it's not. It's just not the same. It's just not the same as it is over. It's a great place, a beautiful place. I mean, seriously, I'll cry tears the day I leave that place. But Lancaster's downtown Y is way different. So the operations are very different. So we're trying to find those mission imperatives across all associations. We have a New American Welcome Center that we've now brought those services over to Lancaster. That we're in York. So we're finding things that will work in both places based on the needs in each of the communities. Our mission's the same. We are a Christian principle, Christian-based organization. I don't have to read this for you. You can read it yourself. But those 6 values are very, very critical: faith, hope, love, honesty, respect, and responsibility. And that's the mission across the whole organization. So the Lancaster mission, along with the organization, kind of went away. And then through these Christian principles, we build relationships that collectively and collaboratively address people's needs in making those stronger communities. And hopefully that's going to be the case across both communities. And there's a lot of people. I don't know how many people go back and forth, but I started going back and forth since last September. I live in Shiloh. I usually would just drive down to 90 North Newbury Street and back home. It's 10 minutes. So now I go from Shiloh all the way on the other end. I got to go through all those lights every time I go to Lancaster. But there's a lot of people going to Lancaster, and there's a lot of people coming back. And then when you come home at the end of the day, there's a lot of people coming both ways. There's a lot of people on that road. So the communities really are connected in a lot of ways. So the culture was right. Culture is key. Bad cultures lead strategies all day. So culture has been key for us. The idea that we are a Christian-based organization, we don't run from that. We're very ecumenical as to how we administer that. Everyone is welcome at our YMCA, but we also want to be performance-centered. Are we doing what we say we're doing based on our mission imperatives? And that we want to have strong leadership and be driven by our values. Again, we want to develop those relationships. That's critical. Many of your room have been long-term. We've had long-term relationships with you. We're very pleased and blessed to have that. We want to address needs in the community. They're different in Lancaster than they are in York. One of the things we've already started to do in Lancaster is have conversations around housing. Can we be helpful in Lancaster with housing? Do they have enough affordable housing in Lancaster? And can we in the YMCA provide anything there, shoulder to shoulder with other organizations, to expand affordable housing in Lancaster? And we've already met with the city of Lancaster, and they have some interest and do believe that we can be helpful. We want to have a culture of philanthropy. To see a little bit later on a slide coming up, we really believe that one of the impactful variables to have a resilient organization is to build our endowment. Because in most cases, an endowment and the funds off of endowment in most cases are not going to be susceptible to challenges from pandemics. It's just not going to be the case. So more, or not, in some cases, not even recessions or economic downturns. So we want to make sure we build that culture of philanthropy, and that's based on what we've been as an organization. And we want to develop cause-driven leaders. One of the key things about this is I want to say everyone's having problems finding people, right? Finding staff. We're having problems. We never had a problem before COVID. But one of the things we always had before COVID was, do we have enough opportunities for our younger staff to develop through the organization? And a lot of times, if people weren't moving out of the organization, there was not a place for a young leader to grow into. We weren't big enough. If you're in the Philadelphia Association, YMCAs, or a big metro, you could go to different branches and kind of move around. This gives us more width and breadth for people to be able to be more mobile, and we can create opportunities. And one of those, and I thought Tom and Jill were here because I was speaking today. I didn't know that he was a member of the month, but their daughter, Erin, is our branch executive, doing a great job. One of our young leaders, that job was created because the former branch executive at Shrewsbury in the Southern Branch Y, I moved over to Lancaster as the director of operations there. And probably the move to him over to Lancaster probably saved him from leaving our Y for another job. And so we saved two great leaders in our Y that we hope will be with us for a long time because we had those opportunities. So in summary, this is very historical. There's mergers happening all the time. YMCAs in Pennsylvania is a state that had the most YMCAs in the nation, 61 YMCAs 5 years ago. We're down to 55. And it's because there's been mergers happening in our YMCAs. And, but not many happened with these YMCAs have been in these communities for 166 years and 165 years. The York and Lancaster YMCAs are in their first original YMCA of the USA Charter back in 1857. So we want to regionalize these services to assure there's a sustainable, resilient model going forward while creating a model of service and impact across a broader geographical footprint that'll have lasting relationships. And I underline and bold that word centuries because we're over a century and a half in the YMCA. So I don't want to say years. So we went with the idea of centuries of service. So I think that's it. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be on time. So I guess do I have time for any questions? Questions? I could take any questions if anybody has any questions on it. That's something I didn't cover or just. Mike?
So what's happening to the debt, or how are you attacking that? Different than branding lines?
Yeah. How are we attacking? The question was, how are we attacking the debt? Well, first off, I have to probably say is I want to thank Fulton Bank for that part of that. The other thing is I want to thank our board because our board and we have had a great relationship with Fulton Bank. So honestly, we walked into their offices and started having conversations. We got the debt down, and then the new association took out new debt to pay that off in a more in a more reasonable manner for the YMCAs to hold. So we dropped their debt down 50% per month total, and a lot of that was because of our partnership with Fulton Bank. I don't think Brandywine had the same relationship. I'll just say that. Yes.
Larry, the politics of putting a list together often the most challenging and the most interesting, and because there's really no such a thing as merger of equals.
Right.
Obviously, you're pleased with the way the culture has worked out. How did you pull that off in what could have been really difficult?
Yeah, the question is, how do we pull it off amidst of kind of the social mores that can kind of get in the way when you have one inferior to one superior organization, and if I can use those words. First, I got to start in the nonprofit world. We call this merger, but in a lot of your worlds, it's an acquisition, and so the key thing there has been great leadership at our board level. James Sanders is in the back. He's our second vice chair. Many others have been involved in the process. But we had a due diligence committee of 4 board members that was reporting back to the board the whole time, and Lancaster had the same thing. The other thing we did is we wanted to be sure that we were sensitive to Lancaster's, how they felt about the process. And so when we had the merger committee, we had 4 members of each board. So they felt equal. So we try to treat them as equals because we thought, and I know, or I can believe in our model, the Lancaster YMCA, this merger is going to be helpful to the York Association. And overall, they're going to be a contributor. They're not going to be a drain to this organization going forward. And I think that they felt that they were an equal partner, and we gave them 8 seats on the board to start out. And so I think that that was a key component. But it really had a lot to do with great board members that have been through this in the private sector in many cases, and good legal counsel through the process, and making them feel like equals, and just developing trust and confidence with one another was the key thing. Yes. The question is, are we looking at any others? And it's been interesting to merge in the process. Right now, what happens if there's a CEO vacancy in any YMCA in the state of Pennsylvania, one of the first conversations with the National Y and our alliance is, have you considered merging with a neighboring YMCA? So that is part of a trending within our YMCAs. A lot of communities want to stay independent, but it does come up in conversation. We've had conversation with 2 neighboring YMCAs since this has happened, and they're weighing whether they want to be involved. We're actually doing some shared services, providing CFO services to one of those Ys now. So it usually starts in some kind of need they have, then you share services for a while, kind of date, and then see if it works out. But I know that our board and I don't have the bandwidth right now to entertain another one. This has been a long process, a heavy lift, and we want to make sure we do this one right. Yes.
So I was interested by values-driven leadership component. And that was all part of where Peter Greer and his book Mission-Driven used the line as an example of mission-driven.
Yes.
Is that value-driven leadership that is all-wise? I mean,
Yeah. Well, there's 2 answers to that. So the question is about mission drift and values driven leadership. And Peter, and I've talked with Peter about this, and I agree with him nationally, but I would say locally, there hasn't been mission drift in the YMCAs of York. And that's, again, a credit to the boards. I do think that can be a challenge. And we are a federated organization. So the YMCAs are run locally, managed locally. We have to sign off on a national charter. There are certain things that we have to adhere to, but it's in our charter statement. So a YMCA here in York and in Lancaster now can look way different than the YMCA in, say, Philadelphia or Chicago, LA, or Tallahassee, Florida. So because we're a federated organization, we do look a lot different. But I want to say, and I would say from the volunteer perspective, and you look back over our history, Joe Brillhart, he probably knows better than anybody in terms of the long history of the York Y. But we've tried to be sensitive to those values, particularly our Christian founded principles and values. They're a little bit different than they are now than they were 50 years ago. They're still ecumenical as to how we're addressing those and how we deliver those on a day-to-day basis. I want to hope, and that's what this whole idea about the infinite leadership is critical, about building trust, cooperation, innovation around what our founding principles are. So I don't say we do it right every day or I do it right every day, but that's our intention. Julie. Sure, thank you. So the question is from Julie about Tech Rev downtown. So it's the old white building, Western National Bank at the corner of Newberry and West Market Street, 10,000 square feet building that is now a tech center. We started this project before COVID. The idea there was to bring training to provide higher income jobs, generally to city residents that we were missing in the YMCA services from ages 18 to 25, and generally men and women of color that were living in the city. And that's still our intention. We put $1 million into that building, totally funded by donors. It's a great building. And so we're building an ecosystem around technology, around robotics, around STEM, from youth all the way up to probably folks. And we already have a number of contracts to train people in workforce development for jobs with manufacturers in our community, and developing a technology ecosystem for entrepreneurs that are just getting off the ground, that are also meeting there in a common work environment. So that's been a little bit slow to start because of COVID. But we do have 2 contracts already with manufacturers. We'll be doing training. One is for 100 jobs for a company that's consolidating services here in York, wanting to reach out into the York City community to train people over 6 weeks for jobs that they're done. They have a job at a company here in York at $22.50 an hour. So that's kind of what our goal is. So if you're interested in, if you need an office space, you need a chair to work, come see me and I'll direct you. Jose Santiago kind of runs that show for us. So the housing arm, first off, we have the general 100. The question was, what is the housing arm of the YMCA does? First is the 120 homeless men shelter we have at the YMCA. Those are 120 rooms. Today, we have 108 men living there, so we're always about 90% full. And then we have 169 affordable housing apartments in 5 different communities in the city of York. And then we also have some commercial retail spaces. And we've done also in the community development arm, we've done things. If you go anytime now when it's dark out on Philadelphia and Newbury Street, you'll notice it's well lit through that intersection now. Some really cool decorative lighting, and we're going to expand and extend that. Our community development arm put those lights in, working with the neighborhood to light the community. So we work on safety, community benefit, safe housing, affordable housing. They helped us build an urban park behind the YMCA, our Community Development Corporation. They also were a contributor to workforce development in the Tech Rev Center. So we have housing anywhere from South George and College Avenue. That's those 28 townhomes there. That's part of one of our housing communities. Tom. No, well, thank you. Thank you. And appreciate that. And I think Tom's just saying that so I take it easy on him on pickleball on Friday. So no, it's very, very well. Thank you very much. Well, if I had anything to do with it, if I wanted to get into COVID and durable goods, normally we would have that motor rebuilt in a week. It's 3 to 5 weeks in the current situation. So, yeah, I know Matt Loniger just didn't come here innocent without like.
So Larry, Tom actually set up the phone for my head, which is so we're blessed to have had you for all these years. Describe the very complex organization that you run. So how are you developing that next leader or leaders and fill void as you go through, as you said, 2 or 3 to 5 years and making a step out? And are they in road?
Okay, I don't know. So the question was, how are we going to sustain this work going forward? Because I think Mike's insinuating I'm on the back 9 here, and so who might be next is a complex operation. But yeah, I think key thing is always going to be board members and the engagement we have with relationship with board. As I said, James Sanders will be the board chair in 2 years from now. The current board chair is Gina Kruper. Many of you would know Gina Kruper. So we have 2 York folks that are in those places. And then the second vice chair is Dr. Jen Reinhardt from Lancaster. So the key thing first up is going to be quality board members that are informed and engaged. The second thing is, what am I doing to develop leaders? And that's a very important component of what my job is, to assure that. And I'm trying to pour into that development process. I have a succession plan for any of the jobs. We lost our CFO this year and our director of community development. Craig Wolf retired, many in the room may know, and we automatically have been preparing Jose Santiago for a year for that job, and Jose just migrated right into that job. And I want to say we haven't missed a beat. We missed some things, and we didn't let Craig get too far. Craig's already back lifeguarding, and but he's going to be our new chaplain. He's going to be the chaplain of the YMCA, and we don't have to pay him because he's getting YMCA retirement money. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So it's a critical thing. The succession components are going to be critical. So I want to work with the board and be mindful of that and do everything I can do to develop the next group of leaders. Okay. Thank you.
Tom, you couldn't have said it more eloquently. Larry really is an incredible you could, it's okay.
I could go.
You can go. Yeah. Larry really is an incredible visionary leader and talent. And we're so blessed to have him in our community. And I hope he's not making any plans in the near future to depart. Thank you for all that you're doing for the wise in our community and for ensuring the trajectory into the centuries. I think that's a great motto to be following. And we wish you much continued success in all that you're doing. I think the name is perfect. It really does make a lot of sense. So thank you. In honor of Larry's presentation today, he has signed the book plate on the book, The Bad Seed, not because he is one, because he's not. The bad seed turns into a good seed. It was written by Jory John, and we'll present this book to the Logos Academy. Next week, our program will be by Samantha Dorm of the Friends of Lebanon Cemetery. Her group works to honor the early African-American community members of York County by remembering their legacies and sharing their stories. Friends of Lebanon Cemetery serve to uncover the rich history of York County's African-American burial grounds by researching, identifying, and documenting the people interred in the cemetery, linking familial ties, preserving and restoring not just their locations, but their stories. In closing today, our quote is by Henry Ford. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. Rotarians, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Again, Happy New Year. This meeting is adjourned.